Just gonna, yep, that will be first here. All right, excellent connection. Seriously, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok work so much better than Twitch. Like, yeah, like I don't have any connection issues. I don't have the lag issues like I was having with Twitch. Yeah, just yeah, that tells you something. So yeah, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook Live is another thing I'm looking into. Like I do know how to use it and everything, but I'm not sure if I want if I want to run all three at once. I know I have the capability. That's not a problem. Um, the only thing with that is, do I have the bandwidth? Okay, with the internet connection that I have the best internet connection I can get here. Like, yeah. Speaking of the date today is the 13th. Okay. Yes, Andrea.
Is there a way that we could do one of them from this end?
Yeah, that was the other thought. That was the other thought. And
That's what this came to me.
right. And I think the person to do that best would be either Jordan or Preston. Likely Jordan. I know Preston is, that's something I want us to talk about later after the live stream is like, how can we be supporting Preston and Beth? That's something I would like us to look at. I mean, Facebook Live is really easy, but Jordan doesn't have um, like a following or anything on Facebook. So I'm pretty sure I can make Jordan a mod or an admin on my professional, my business account. So I got to look into all of that and see what the heck that looks like. Or, I mean, I know Jordan already has like privileges for YouTube. So he could run the YouTube, okay, and I could do the Facebook Live. That may be the better way of doing it because he already has privileges on the YouTube. Should be able to access all that and do lives and everything. Like I'm pretty sure I've given him the privileges to do that. I can double check all of that and we can go through that and figure that out. But so let's do sound check. Popping up onto TikTok now as well. Shots into interview. Jesus today. Go live. And we are.
Hey, what's up, guys? It has been.
Alrighty. Do 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 do.
So do we have the link then for the TikTok?
So the link for the I can, yeah, would you like the link? I mean, I can share that. I can share the TikTok, I can share the YouTube. Um I think something too, just a heads up. Jordan, since you're modding, would you be willing to link? Ah, you're on your irons. Cool. Sound check's good. Yep. Awesome. Thank you, sir. Would you be willing, Jordan, to link? Let me see here. How do I want to do this? I'm gonna share the one in WhatsApp. Weird here. TikTok right now is going towards. Wait, I can put it there. Something too, guys, that I want to get into the habit of doing, like our core group, okay, will be the ones on the actual live, um, and then our other individuals who are part of the part of the church, I think is the word to use here. There you go. You're on the right one. Okay. Um, actually, I think the Eins one was the one who had mod privileges. Let me double check
that's
here.
correct.
Which one do you want? Which one do you want mod privileges, or do you just want me to give both mod privileges?
I'd rather have Jordan,
Okay.
that one, because I think that's a little more
All right.
friendly than Heinz.
I'm giving you managing privileges on there. So, yep, you're good. Jordan is now a managing moderator for my channel. and I'm going to do the same thing with Ainz just because. Ainz will go on. Seriously, such an interesting character. I mean, you literally have the both polars of like chaotic good and like chaotic evil kind of all wrapped up into one skeleton. Um,
He's one of my favorite anime characters for that reason.
yeah, I mean, I think at his core, he's not a bad person. Like I believe at his core, he's a good person. But he's also in a situation where like, yeah, like how do you survive in that kind of world without having to do things that are unsavory? Like, you don't.
And the only people he has to help is
individuals individuals they created, like who are basically like snapshots of the other person's personalities. Like it's yeah.
kind of cool to like at first like he struggled with that identity, playing the identity, and then as it went on, he became
Hey
more
Cam,
and more,
thank you for joining us today, buddy.
more and more into that role.
Yeah, and I like that's something too that I really enjoyed about that anime was just like made you ask a lot of really hard questions. Like there were definitely things that happened that were not cool at all. Like especially in the later, like the second season, there was some stuff that happened that was just horrible, absolutely terrible. So yeah, I don't have any, like, I'm not going to say that's okay. Is it you kind of see this progression with Ainz. Like he goes from like, okay, like I'm a kid that just kind of like all of a sudden now living in a video game universe to, well, now I have to take on this persona and that persona becomes him in reality. And you see him falling deeper and deeper into that kind of darkness. Yeah, like, and there's a part of me at least that like really felt for him, because it's like, well, how do you separate that? Like, it's a lot easier when you're just playing a game, right? Like, but now it's no longer a game. Now it's your life. See, for me, like in video games, I am just myself. See, for me, like in my past, video games were a way of me just being me. Like the real me was rejected and bullied horribly. Like my like super loud personality. Like, I mean, most of you guys have seen that. Just kind of the goofy side of me. And this is still low level. Like this isn't even me just being crazy. It's still there. It's always there. But the point is, like, that part of me for years and years and years was rejected and condemned because it was different. You know, I grew up in a super legalistic, like, household. Like, it was do what I say, not what I do. Like, it was very pharisaical, very hypocritical. So, video games were an outlet for me to be who I wanted to be. Like, I could play Final Fantasy VII. I could be the hero that saves, like, the world. Like, I could play games like Mortal Kombat and fight like the way I really wanted to fight. Like I could put myself in those games and just live a fantasy, right? But it was the fantasy that I really wanted. It was the reality that I really longed for, just the ability to be myself. And I think that was something that's true for a lot of people who play games. You know, you got really, I'm going to say there's two sides. Now, I'm sure there's more than that, but I'm going to say that there's a majority that are just one or the other. You have the individuals who play video games to be something they're not, and you have individuals that play video games to be who they are. And you'll notice the difference. You really will. Like, the individuals who play video games to be something that they're not are usually the trolls. Like, those are the individuals that are angry, demeaning, bullying, etc., etc. Those are those folks. The guys who play video games to be themselves, those are the guys that you see like World of First Guilds and World of Warcraft, the guys who are like, you know, blowing up the bosses in Destiny 2, you know, those are those types of people. Those are the types of people I enjoy spending time with. because they're real, and they really know how to have fun in a way that is not like demeaning or destructive. And something too, like, and this kind of leads into like one of the main things I want to talk about today. How do you deal with those kinds of people? How do you deal with your friends who are having a bad day? Like, how do you do that? And that's something that I want us to really, really touch on today is how do you deal with conflict in relationships? How do you deal with bullies? Because believe it or not, the same way you deal with conflict in your marriage is the same way that you deal with bullies. Okay? Now, I'm gonna talk about that and tell you why. So, where this whole concept comes from is what we see in Romans 12, all right? 12:21 is a great example. We see this in Matthew 7, verse 12. Okay? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, for in this way you fulfill all of the law and the prophets. Okay? We see how in Matthew 5, we're told that the way that we overcome evil with good. Pray for those who persecute you. Love those who hate you. Like, that's, like, yeah, that sounds kind of crazy. Like, this person's treating me like crap and you want me to love them. Yep, that's exactly what I want you to do. That does not mean, all right, I want to make this super, super clear, just because somebody's treating you like crap, all right, if they try to physically harm you in some way, that doesn't mean you don't defend yourself. All right, I am completely and totally against this passive, I'm gonna say it, passive crap that we see from a lot of individuals in Christianity. Well, Jesus said turn the other cheek. Yes, he did. Do you actually understand what that means? Do you understand metaphor? Do you understand that that was not literal? He wasn't saying literally, like, let somebody smack the crap out of you. Like, it literally means to turn the other cheek, turn the anger away, turn from the malice, and present to them compassion and love. Where do I get that? It's not an eye for an eye or a tooth for a tooth. All right, guys, we are to love our enemies. It goes right back to the same thing. And sometimes the way that we love our enemies is if they're trying to harm us physically, you punch them in the face. Okay. Now, you don't have to agree with me. That's fine. All right. But I would love to see you prove me wrong. So if you really disagree that strongly, okay, do your best, prove me wrong. That's okay. So, moving on. When we're dealing with a difficult individual, okay, one of the first things that I have learned to do is ask, okay, why are they behaving this way? Okay, that's one of the first questions I ask, but how do I even get to that point? How do I not just react in anger? Well, I have built a habit of prayer, of taking the emotions that I'm feeling directly to Jesus. Literally, every emotion that I feel has now been designed to immediately point me to Jesus Christ. Period. Doesn't matter what emotion it is, it points me to Jesus Christ. Because that's the only way that I can deal with those emotions is by going to Jesus Christ and actively processing those things. Because, guys, emotions are just the products of thoughts and beliefs. That's it. So there's a thought there, I'm going to say 9 times out of 10. And sometimes you're just feeling other people's emotions. That's a real thing. Okay? And yeah, of course, there are thoughts that they are having, but sometimes that's none of your business. Like, you don't need to be thinking about what they're thinking about. Deal with your own thoughts, okay? Like, unless God reveals their thoughts to you, like, just love them, okay? And ask Jesus how to do that. So first step, all right, is building a habit of prayer, of capturing your thoughts. That's the first step. All right, when you're dealing with conflict, when you're dealing with difficulties, even in yourself, internal conflict, the first step is, what are these emotions? Why am I feeling what I'm feeling? And do that together with Jesus Christ. Don't try to do it alone, okay? And if you're struggling to hear him, find somebody, find a good Christian counselor. All right. I'm not going to suggest that you go to a therapist. All right. I did talk therapy for 20 years and it did not help. It didn't. It was a Band-Aid on a freaking gun wound. All right. Like, you ever try to put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, you're not going to get very far. All right. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to clean that out and to make sure there's nothing in there that's going to cause infection, etc. Now, guys, mind you, this is not literal. This is metaphor that I'm using here. Okay, I am comparing, contrasting a wound to the emotional wounds that we have as human beings caused by trauma, etc. That's what I'm doing. And I want to make that clear because I've learned that some people tend to take what I'm saying very literally. And a lot of what I say is symbolic, it's representative, it's designed to teach you a principle. They are parables. It's how Jesus teaches. It's how he taught me to teach. But I'm also going to do my best to explain those things to you to the best of my ability. Okay? So that's your first step, is you have to start learning to identify your own emotions and start processing those emotions. Why are you feeling what you're feeling? Where are these thoughts coming from? Like, etc. And identify any lies that you're believing about yourself and others, and then replace it with the truth. So when you are actively doing that, you are setting the stage so that you can help others. God comforts us in all of our troubles that we might be able to comfort others the same way he's comforted us. This is not all about you. It's not. It's not all about you. Yes, you are important. Your feelings are important. They are valid to your experience. But it's to recognize that not every emotion you have is designed to dictate your actions. And if you're allowing your emotions to dictate your actions, you're very likely going to hurt yourself and others. Emotions are there. Think of them like street signs or stop signs. Okay, they're designed to point you in a direction. All right? If you're feeling anger, that points you to forgiveness. If you're dealing with frustration, that points you to acceptance. If you're dealing with lust, that points you to gratitude and purity, to make sure that you're placing whatever that is in front of Yahweh, below him, recognizing God is God. If you're feeling pride, it's, again, you really need to be grateful for what God has given you, because whatever you're feeling pride about, you don't have the ability to take credit for. Nothing you have ever done have you done on your own. Pride points you to humility. Greed points you to generosity. That's what I want you guys to understand. And this is the stuff that I've been working on. I'm putting this stuff into a book. It's the working title right now is Jesus' Survival Guide. And it's how to identify your emotions and to process them. Okay? What emotions point you where, and what is the truth that defeats it? Okay? So it's not done yet. It will be. Like, it's written. We're in the process of getting stuff put together. So there are resources out there. All the stuff I'm talking about all comes from Scripture. Okay? It's all in there. If love is what we are designed to do, if that is our purpose, it means anything that is not love is not for us. Okay? So when you are presented with an individual that is hurting, okay, it's to recognize first that the way that they're behaving has very little to actually do with you. You may have said something they didn't like, but the way that they're reacting to you is about what's going on inside of them. Now, maybe you were disrespectful. Maybe you did say something that was inappropriate. But again, the way that they deal with that situation says where they are at. How you behave says where you're at. Like, and it's stopping and looking, okay, Jesus, how do I need to handle this situation? What do I need to say? Sometimes it's don't say anything. They're not at a point where they're willing or even able to receive what you have. Other times it's, all right, let's go to war. Sometimes that's what it is. And the only way to know what tool to use in what moment is to go to God and discern that. We see that all throughout, especially the New Testament speaks of discernment, the ability to judge rightly. And that only comes from Jesus Christ. He is the righteous judge. Well, and then people want to bring up Matthew 7. Well, judge not, lest ye be judged by the same measure that you judge others. All right, let's look at that a little bit deeper. You look at the Amplified Version, it says something extremely different. Judge ye not hypocritically, while you yourself are unrepentant, lest you be judged by the same measure that you judge others. Well, that says something very different. But here's the interesting thing. Even in the I would say the watered down version, it says, make sure that you're taking the plank out of your own eye before you try to take the splinter out of your brother's. If you read that in context, you understand that Matthew 6 and Matthew 5 are all one sermon, that they're all meant to come together as one. That's the context. He's speaking to the Jewish people on, what mountain was it? It's a Sermon on the Mount, but I don't remember exactly what mountain it was.
Sinai?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up. Maybe the Mount of Olives. I'm not quite sure. Point being, though, is all of that is something to be taken in context. If this is that's one overarching message starting from Matthew 5 going to Matthew 7, it means that the context, in order to better understand the entirety of it, is found within it. So if he's talking about loving your enemies in Matthew 5, and in Matthew 7 he's talking about correction and not judging hypocritically, like, I think that's something that are meant to be spoken together. And then you see in Matthew 6 how we're asked to seek first the kingdom of heaven, that how we are asked to pray, that we're not doing what we're doing in order to be seen by people, but like in Matthew 7, we're being asked to do the things we do so that we are pleasing God, so that people can glorify our Father in heaven. Yes, Jordan.
Okay, could you repeat the verse where I believe you quoted probably either the NLT or the King James version, where judge you not unless you be judged.
So yeah, Matthew 7, all right. I want to say Matthew 7 verse 1 says, in like the NLT, the NIV, a lot of the more recent translations says, judge not, lest you be judged by the same measure that you judge others. A lot of people quote that verse and say, hey, don't judge me.
But if we are judged by Jesus' standards, if
Correct.
we judge, so even still, that
right.
Again,
That's where people are taking a portion of a verse, judge ye not. They forget the lest ye be judged by the same measure in which you judge others. The Amplified Version gives greater context, greater understanding of the Greek, or even going further back, likely it was spoken in Aramaic. Okay? But again, what we have is the Greek, all right, to be able to look back on. That was what was, most of the manuscripts were written in, okay? So, judge not hypocritically while you yourself are unrepentant, lest ye be judged by the same measure in which you've judged others. In other words, if you're going to judge another person's actions, okay, it's not our job to judge their soul, all right? In other words, the entirety of their being, and say, well, you're just inherently evil, all right? I'm not going to say that that's going to be a healthy way of viewing things, especially when Jesus says, love your enemies. Okay, but we do need to understand right from wrong. And the way we do that is by first taking the plank out of our own eye before we try to take the splinter out of our brother's. You are far better off keeping your mouth shut if you yourself are still walking in the same sin that you're trying to help somebody else get out of. If you are not actively walking in humility, doing your best, okay? Not saying you don't stumble, not saying you don't fall at times, but if you are not actively walking in humility, then you have no business trying to correct somebody who's in pride. You just look like a hypocrite, you look like a fool because you are being a hypocrite and you are being a fool. You're better off keeping your mouth shut and praying for that person and praying and asking God to heal what's inside of you so you can speak into that in a loving and kind way. Okay? That is a much healthier way of correcting another person. All right? So, Andrew, I got a question for you. All right, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
Yes.
All right. So, when you've been corrected, what has been the biggest struggle that you've had?
Pride.
Pride? Okay. In what
Pride,
way?
yeah.
In what way? What has been the lie?
I didn't want to be wrong.
You didn't want to be wrong. Okay. Okay, why?
And I didn't want to be called on it.
Why?
Part of it was shame.
Okay.
That I wasn't living up to who I thought I should be.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, she does that. I can't help but smile. Like, oh my gosh.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so everybody,
Seriously.
that's my son. Cuteness factor times 10. Just like, what the? Yeah, his is exponential cuteness. It just gets more and more cute the longer you look at him.
Yeah. So yeah, it's
Okay. Thank you.
part of it also was dealing with felt that I was knowledgeable, I was educated,
Okay.
I had lived through a lot of things, and I knew.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean,
So,
it was just a conglomeration of things.
okay, so can I say that part of it was you thought you knew better than the person correcting you?
Oh yeah.
So you exalted yourself above them.
Yeah.
Okay, so is it fair to say that you were seeing yourself as God?
I would say in those, yeah.
In those moments.
But
Not saying
in
like all
those
the time.
moments-
So guys, hey, something
No,
I
but
want to
in those moments, yeah. But what was so cool that even though I didn't like it, when I would pray about it and discern and actually go to Yeshua and ask, is what being said true? And I would hear from him, yes, it was. It was just like, oh crap. Okay. So what do I do with it, Jesus?
Yep.
And bit by bit, because I would get angry. I would be angry about it. I mean, you lived through that with me.
Yeah.
Preston saw that when I was going through that growth time. But what was cool when it got to the point where I could humbly listen to correction, knowing that it was being spoke to me in love, that it wasn't to put me down, but it was truly to exalt me, to have me be more like Jesus. And I was able to change my whole thought process of, yeah, sometimes I needed my butt kicked, and I needed to see that no, I didn't have it all together. No matter how the facade I was putting out there, that I was all together, and that was scary for me. That was scary, thinking that someone was really seeing me who I was, not who I wanted them to see me as.
Yeah. So there was a fear component there.
There was quite a few things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So something I want to touch on, and I'm gonna ask some questions here. When you were in those moments, okay, what were some things that you noticed that I would do, or that you have found works in your own experiences with dealing with difficult situations, that enable that person, all right, that create space, all right? I'm not saying you have control over how they hear you or see you, but what are some ways that you found create space to disagree and to have conversation in a way that, like, is healthy? Like, so first,
Okay.
let me define something really quick. So conversation, okay, is where two people, all right, are coming together. They may have opposing ideas, but they're seeking to find out what is right. Okay, so it's a coming together and wanting to better understand something. The other side is an argument, okay, where you have one or both parties trying to prove that they are right. Okay, argument, pride, conversation, humility, understanding, love. Okay, so go ahead.
Well, I think one of the big key things for me was coming to the understanding that I could actually discern what my feelings were.
Okay.
That that was big for me.
Okay.
That rather than just reacting, I was actually able to go to Jesus and say, "All right, why am I feeling this way?
Okay.
You know, what is it that's being said that wants me to lash out?
Okay.
What is it? So, and what is the truth behind it? Is what being said true?"
Okay.
And so I found myself having this internal conversation and asking myself the questions. Um, and sometimes I was walked through some of those questions
Yeah.
till I got to the point where I could do that,
So
where I could actually seek that.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Is through the experience that we had, okay, through that time of healing and pruning, or whatever word you want to use there, um, like there were a lot of moments that seemed like light bulb moments. Like I had said the same thing to you like 50, 60, 70, sometimes 100 times in certain situations.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating. Repetition
Yeah.
is
No, you're not.
is important. Um, but then there came a point where it's just like there was this light bulb moment. And my understanding, okay, is that was the moment of acceptance. You finally accepted that what I was saying was true, and you
Yeah.
allowed that into your heart to inform a new belief. And then the beliefs that did not align with that truth that had been supported by Yahweh time and time and time and time again, you'd seen the results of that truth time and time and time and time again, and eventually, boom, okay, here's the light. It's here. Okay, now we can see all this crap. But it took you taking that light into that dark room, didn't it?
It did. And along with that, there were just, it was sort of multifaceted,
Okay, let's talk about it.
because what one thing I had to come to the realization of who I truly was in Christ.
Okay, so identity is really important.
So I had to learn that I was worthy to be forgiven,
Okay.
that I did not have to continue in the path of sin,
Okay.
which would be the pride, the anger, the I'm better than you attitude. Um, so it was, yeah, there were just a lot of things. And what was so neat, I can remember being here in the living room, and I had said something, and I remember you coming and saying, "Mom," um, and then we talked about it, there would have been a time I would have been pissed. I would have been angry. I would have reacted. I might even have stomped off to my bedroom or thrown something. But I had a quiet peace within me where I could sit there and I could listen.
Okay. So
I no longer needed, I didn't have to run.
okay. So here's
I
another
could listen. I
here's
could
another
hear you.
question. What is it that happened? What was a moment? Like maybe a defining moment, maybe it was multiple moments where you finally decided I wasn't your enemy. Because that's what I'm sensing right here is that was the big difference is for a long time you saw me as your enemy. I was attacking you. When in reality what I was doing is fighting the enemy, but it was uncomfortable. I was fighting for you the entire time.
Yeah.
But what-
Well, and just accepting that love,
Okay.
that I was worthy of that love.
So wait a second. So for you to even Preston, go ahead actually.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask rather, is part of the problem this goes into the conversation you and I had last night, and then what you're sharing right now is feeling like we're attacked. Is it because we're identifying with the enemy? We're identifying with that pride. Is that the issue? Is that why it feels like it's a personal attack?
Oof, now
Because you
that's a really good question. Without discernment, I would say yes immediately. Now Jesus, is that true? I'm hearing yes. Yahweh, who said yes? Yeshua, who is Yeshua? King of kings, God of gods. Okay. So I think that clarifies a lot of that. In that moment, you've identified with the enemy. You're in agreement with him.
Yep. Yes.
So, okay, that being said, okay, so when that's why, all right, that was light bulb moment for me. It's like, okay, that makes more sense. So how do we move from, okay, hey, like I'm the enemy to the lie is the enemy? And I believe that's a huge transition. But what are the steps that it takes to do that? And guys, honestly, the only thing I've seen with that is building a relationship with Jesus Christ and understanding who you are. Yes, Mr. Jordan.
Exactly.
I was also gonna say, via prayer and building that relationship, but also in the instance that it's happening, it's the confrontation, going to Jesus, praying,
Right.
asking if what is being said true.
Something that I want to look at really, like maybe not really quick, but something I want to look at here is if you're dealing with an individual, okay, and you're giving back the same thing they're giving you, you guys are both like feeding into the problem. Okay. Now, sometimes, and I'm going to say this, and there's likely going to be people that disagree with me. Sometimes, like, I'm going to look right at you. Sometimes you are the problem. Okay? Sometimes that's a reality. Sometimes the only problem is you. Okay? That doesn't mean that you have to treat yourself like crap or allow another person to treat you like crap. Okay? You are still the one making your decisions. All right? There's none of this, the devil made you do it. All the enemy can do is influence you. I've had a lot of people, a few people, okay, in my life try and tell me this crap. Well, it's a generational curse. Bullshit. Okay? I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm not saying that demons don't exist. They obviously do. But they have a very limited amount of power. Very limited. And it's what you give them. Okay? What you agree with is what gives them the power to operate in your life. You can open up your home and you can prepare a room for the enemy. Every time you come into agreement with fear, pride, lust, greed, gluttony, malice, unforgiveness, etc., okay? Everything that you're in agreement with, you've prepared a place for the enemy. Okay? Now, how do you deal with that? You come out of agreement with the enemy and you replace that lie with the truth. You now invite the Holy Spirit into your home. Those spaces that the enemy was taking up, you replace with the Holy Spirit. And guess what? They can't come back. Doesn't mean they can't stand outside and yell at you. All right? Hey, let me in, let me in. Don't you want to do this and this and this, blah, blah, and tempt you? They can do that. But at that point, guess what? What you have living in your home is good and honoring to God. It's what empowers you to love and good deeds. Okay? All the enemy can empower you to do is be an ass. Okay? Make that super clear. All right? The devil made me do it is not a defense. All right? Okay? Now, here's go ahead, Andrea.
Well, and I think that was part of I had been raised with this old theology that I would always be a sinner, that it was always an excuse for me for my bad behavior.
Yep.
You know, that I'm just a sinner saved by grace.
Nope.
And so I had to totally change my viewpoint of what my salvation really means.
Yeah.
And understand that just because we are walking this earth does not mean that we do not have to, in other words, we don't have to continue in sin.
No, we don't. We don't ever have to sin. Jesus Christ paid the price for that. We are no longer slaves to fear, to sin, to doubt, to any of those things. Like, that's the thing. We have a choice in whom we are going to serve, just as the Israelites did in the Old Testament. Okay, we still have that choice today. The beautiful part is now we have God in us to empower us. We have the Holy Spirit. If you have been baptized in the Holy Spirit, guess what? You don't have an excuse. Okay, there are people out there that are still, they call themselves Christians. Yeah, they may have accepted salvation, but they do not have the Holy Spirit empowering them to love and good deeds. You cannot produce good fruit in your flesh. It doesn't work. You cannot do it in pride. That's what I mean by in the flesh. Okay? I'm not talking about your physical body. Okay? I'm talking about the sin nature. I'm talking about ego. You cannot produce good fruit in ego. Just because something looks good. And you can go all day and go, oh, well, I did this, and I did this, and I did this. All right, the second you started, I did this, and I did this, and I did this, you already screwed up. Did you do it by yourself? Nope. Did God empower you? Did he give you the power to wake up and to move and to breathe and to be alive? Yes. Then let's hear some gratitude. Jesus, you know what?
Amen.
Hey, Jesus enabled me to get up this morning and to come on here and to teach. Man, I didn't do that all on my own. Jesus gave me an amazing night's sleep last night, the likes of which I haven't had in a while. Been doing a lot of training and dealing with a lot of stuff. That's great, though. That's also a blessing that I have the strength and the ability to do those things. Like that I have a wife who's willing to make coffee for me. That I have friends who are willing to support like this ministry and what God has called us to. That isn't something I did on my own. Yeah, I made choices, but guess what? I don't sit here and take credit for my choices. What reward I receive is up to God. I do not ever have to exalt myself. He will do that in his timing and in his way. And guys, if you ever want to know where the source of my teachings are, love Jesus and go to him and talk to him. Okay. You know, yeah, we've been talking about conflict and it's touched on a lot of different, like, points. Why? Well, you look at James 4 and it explains why conflicts and arguments arise. It's those things that are at war within you. You know, why is it we pray and we don't get what we ask for? Well, why are you asking for it? Are you asking out of love? Do you really want to hear the truth? Or do you want to hear what agrees with you? Because you know what? God isn't here just to agree with you. If you're praying, then you need to be testing and you need to be humble before God. Prayer is not telling God what to do. Prayer is us going to God and saying, hey, Yahweh, how may we serve you? What can we do together today? Man, guys, my life changed in every single way for the better when I submitted it before God. In every single way. Guys, seriously, in less than 5 years' time, I went from homeless drug addict to pastor and counselor. Among other things. But we're just going to stick with those two for now. I went from mess. My life was a freaking dumpster fire. To the man I am today. I'm a good man. Not because of what I've done, but because of what Jesus has done for me and in me. Yes, I had to allow him. I did. That was a choice I had to make. Yet he taught me how to do that. He taught me how to make good choices. How to see from other people's perspectives. How to see from his perspective. Why is this person behaving this way? Why are they so angry? Why are they so afraid? Why are they trying to control? Why are they seeking to manipulate me? What are they afraid of? What do they need to feel safe? Well, if they need to be in control to feel safe, then that doesn't work in Christ. It's recognizing God's sovereignty and that I'm safe because of who he is, not because of what I can do. So guys, do you have any questions? No? All right, I'm going to go ahead and summarize. Simply put, the way to deal with conflict is to first deal with the conflict that's inside of you. That's the first step. Is take what you're feeling, you're thinking to God. To be humble before him before you ever seek to deal with the conflict coming from another person. You can't rightfully stand before another individual and seek what is right if you yourself are in sin. Doesn't hit the same. Yes, Andrea.
As you said that, it reminded me of a situation where at work, and I think I may have shared this before, but it was a major turning point for me in realizing how I'd grown and accepting how Jesus has changed my life. And I had an individual who basically yelled at me and was very rude and unkind in what they said. And there would have been a time I would have taken that all in. I would have gone back to my desk and I would have cried.
Yeah.
I was just quiet. I went back to my desk and I prayed. And I talked with Jesus about it. All right, Jesus, how can I love this? How can I love her? Obviously she's hurting. I no longer took it in. It was no longer on me. And I realized I no longer had to accept that what they said, that's not who I was. And that I was free. And it was one of the most freeing things I think that had ever happened, because it showed me how my desire to love as Jesus loves my understanding of who I am as the daughter of the king. The destroying of all the lies, it's freeing me to truly love. And no matter how rude someone is, and I was actually able to go to this individual and say, you know what? It's obvious you're having a tough day. How can I help you? They didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
But, they didn't accept the help. But my heart was that of love. How can I help you to get this job done? And that was a turning point for me in the office merry-go-round that's there sometimes.
Well, you know what? That's a big thing, though, is when we start to recognize the wounds in us and we start to understand ourselves, it's easier to understand others. You know, I
Exactly.
heard a saying, "Hi, buddy. Hi, little man." I heard a saying a long time ago that we can only understand another person as far as we've met ourselves. And I think that is a very valid point. Yeah, you wanted Papa, didn't you? You wanted Papa, didn't you?
Yes, we
Ah,
we too are with your phone holder. Smack in it.
Oi, what
We're
are you?
just like moving like I go on the other side.
Hey.
He goes on the other side.
Oi, buddy, what you doing, kid? Well, you're a boy. Don't do that. Okay, bud, we don't want to break this. We don't have the money right now to replace it. Okay, so we have to steward it well and take care of it. Okay? Okay, back to mom. So, I think the next big step in conflict is then seeking to understand the other person, understanding their perspective, asking them questions. Now, what happens if they don't want to? Well, then they don't want to. Okay? You're not there to force them. Like, you're not there to chase them. You're not there to play games. If you're having a conflict and they don't want to resolve it, walk away. Be silent. Okay? Because oftentimes in those moments, what they want is to exert some sort of control over you. And when you give them the opposite of what they want, like for instance, a lot of times what my wife wants is me to shut up. So guess what I do? I keep talking. If my wife wants me to leave, like she's trying to control me to get me to go away, I stay. If she's trying to get me to stay, I walk away. Why do I do that? I'm not going to feed into control. I'm going to show you, no, you're trying to control me to do this. I'm going to do the opposite. You're going to recognize that control is not love. It is the opposite of it. If you are trying to control your partner, your friend, your coworker into doing what you want them to do, you are in sin. Period. That's it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's like, do you want to argue with me? All right, guess what? I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, you don't agree with me? I don't give a shit. Okay. I really don't. Your opinion, if it does not align with Christ, doesn't matter. Doesn't mean that you don't have worth and value, but that opinion does not have worth or value. Okay? If it is in sin, it is worthless. That doesn't mean that you are worthless, but the action and the thought process that you have adopted is worthless. I would even say it has negative value because it is causing death and destruction in your life. Okay? That's something that's very important as well, is to separate a person's actions, thoughts, and beliefs from the value that they have before God. Jesus Christ lived and died for that person that you're speaking to. Okay? Jesus Christ loves that person. Even in the deepest, darkest pit of their sin, Jesus Christ loves them. And you are called to love them too. And if you're not, okay, then we need to deal with that. Okay? How well do you think that conflict's going to go if you start to hate the person that's that you're in conflict with? Now you're just going to try and hurt them. Instead of going, well, this person is attacking me, go, okay, why am I feeling like this? Now, mind you, if they're not actively trying to punch you in the face, I would say they're not probably attacking you the same way you might think. Okay? I think some of you guys need to understand what a frickin' attack really is. Is that person trying to demean your character and tear you apart from the frickin' root out? Are they demeaning you in public and in private? Like trying to destroy your reputation? Okay, then if they're not doing that, shut up. Like seriously, they're not attacking you. They're trying to help you. If they're coming to you and they're pointing out a problem, they're trying to help you. You're trying to repair a relationship. They're trying to help you heal. If they're not going behind your back and telling everybody, oh, this person is just the most evil person there is. Like, seriously, they're so arrogant and prideful and they're so controlling. Like, every time it's all night. Seriously, get over it. Are you, seriously? Now, I did that little voice for a reason. Like, it's ridiculous. Why attack the very people who love you enough to sit there and have a conversation with you about something that sucks? An attack is intentional. Yes, Andrea.
So my question is, why do we have sometimes the first feeling we have is that we're being attacked?
Well, what is
the lie?
What's the let me ask you a question. What's the easiest way to keep a person from healing? Or seeing the
It's
truth?
not having faith, not facing their issues.
Okay.
Their,
So
the lies that are being told about them.
okay, so here's the thing. If you have an individual who is like easily triggered, all right, by correction, and correction's the only thing that's going to like solve the problem, what do you have to do? You correct him anyways.
Okay.
And you be honest about it. It's really that simple. You be honest with them. It's like, hey, I'm not here to hurt you, but it's also not your responsibility to fix them. Like the stuff that I'm saying, I know it's sometimes really hard to hear. The truth hurts. And could I say it differently? Sure. I'm not going to unless Jesus asks me to. I know that what I'm doing in love. This is how Jesus has asked me to put it. None of you guys are small children. You're not a baby. Okay? I'm not going to treat you like one. Am I being disrespectful? Not in the least. Well, what is disrespect? Just because you feel disrespected doesn't mean I disrespected you. To disrespect another person means you are intentionally demeaning their character in some way, shape, or form. It's either coming out of fear, pride, lust, etc., etc. Like it's a lack of love. You're behaving or acting out of something that is not including Jesus Christ. It's not including love. It's recognizing that your feelings are the products of past experiences. That's what triggers are. They're trauma responses.
Yeah.
And when you start to recognize and identify those things, and you have your identity grounded in Christ, and you recognize the other person for who they are, that stuff goes away. Doesn't mean the temptation isn't there, but now you're no longer pointing the gun at your freaking partner and pulling the trigger. You recognize, oh, hey, I have a weapon here. That's my words. All right? You get triggered, doesn't mean you immediately start firing at your partner. Take that trigger, and you know what? Start looking at the lie, pull the trigger on that, and replace it with the truth. You can use that trigger in order to heal. But it takes you recognizing that it's not necessarily the reality of what's happening. You are going back. It's a response to trauma in your past. But that doesn't give you an excuse. I guess that's the big thing I want like us to understand here. Like our behavior, all right? My behavior, I don't have the ability to say it's your fault. I'm making my own choices. I'm accountable to myself, just as you're accountable. Okay, you may not like something that I'm saying, but you're still accountable for how you behave in response or reaction to what I'm saying. That's not my responsibility. You don't like what I'm saying? Okay. That's all right. You don't have to. I don't want you to like what I'm saying if you're in sin. If you're not in sin, what I'm saying doesn't bother you so much. But if there's actively sin within, if there's active stuff that you're dealing with, then yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. That's called conviction. And it's not me convicting you, it's the Holy Spirit. That's a good thing. I want you to be uncomfortable in sin. Right? I mean, goodness gracious, I'm sure my wife could have a few things to say about that. I'm the worst person to have an argument with. That is my, yeah. Did you hear what she said? She said, "I think Mom can testify on that too." Having an argument with me is a terrible experience for the other person because I'm going to love you through it. I'm not going to sin against you. You're not going to have any excuse for your behavior. I'm going to show you that every excuse you have is utter and complete bullshit.
But it's painful.
Yes, it is painful. Yeah, surgery sucks. You know? Like, but that's the thing. My job is to make sure you have no excuse. To make it very, very clear what your choices are and that you're choosing to sin. And that you also have the choice and the ability not to. That's my job. That's what it means to be the sword. Yeah, Preston. Are you saying something to me or are you talking to your wife? Okay. So you guys got any questions? On this, like, super fun topic. Yeah.
I did have one question, bro.
Yeah, what's up, buddy?
Let us say you're in the middle of an issue with your child, right? Not like a grown child, but like, let's say they're 13, 14 or whatever.
Okay.
And it comes to a point where there needs to be some sort of a separation. What's the, you know what I mean? Like, what would be the best move there? Obviously pray through it, but you can't walk out on your kid, right? You know what I mean? So it's like, what's the thing?
Okay, so that is a really difficult question, and I'm going to say this: there's not a black or white answer. Like I'm going to say it depends on the situation. I think first and foremost, what is Jesus asking of you in that? Like, it's not good for a child, okay, to be raised with two parents who are constantly fighting. But the same thing is also not good for there just to be a single parent household. Like that's also like, I mean, every statistic that you see, like makes it very clear that children who are raised in two-parent households, even where they're arguing, like are often better equipped in life than individuals who just have a single parent and you have like a male or female kind of coming and going. Okay. So now arguing and abuse are two different things. Okay. Arguments are a normal part of life, especially with couples. Okay. That's a part of the whole two becoming one thing. Like that's just, yeah. Now it doesn't have to be an argument. I would say like it never has to be an argument. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen though. Okay. Just because something doesn't have to be that way doesn't mean it's not going to be. Okay. So when we're looking at those moments, it's like, okay, first off, I'll speak from my own like experience with my wife. I've more than once, it's like, okay, Jesus, do I need to leave? Like, is that what's going to give my wife the opportunity to heal? Like, that's a question I've had to ask. Yeah, my wife has asked the same question because I'll be honest, guys, I'm not an easy person to live with. I'm not. I don't lie ever. And if I sense that you're doing something that's wrong, I'm going to say something to you. And you're not always going to like it. I care enough about you and myself to call you on your shit. Because I love you. It's that simple. So the other thing is, does this person have the desire to actually heal? Okay. Do they have the desire? Is it really there? Do they really want to heal, or are they just telling me what they think I want to hear because they don't want to lose me? All right. And sometimes it's both. Sometimes they're telling me what they think I want to hear in order so that they don't lose me, so I don't leave. And sometimes they do really want to heal. So it's not, again, like, all right, so Jesus, what the heck do I do here? What's going to facilitate like their healing, and how do I stay like, how do I do the things that you're calling me to do in the midst of this? I dealt the same thing when I was asked to walk with my mother. That was hard. All right. Like, let's look at that perspective for a minute. And like, Andrea was an abuser in my life for years. Okay. It was like, holy crap, Jesus, you're asking me to heal and help the person who hurt me heal. Like, what are you, like, Jesus, are you nuts? Like, are you seriously asking me to live in the very home where I was abused for the first 25 years of my life? And you want me to help them heal while I'm still healing? Are you nuts? You know how many times I'm in my bedroom on the floor crying out to God, not knowing what the F to do? How do I handle this? Because I had a stepfather who was a straight narcissist who turned everything I said or did into some evil, horrible scheme to hurt him. It was nuts. And I was asked to be in the midst of that and to still show grace and to forgive and to love them when everything inside of me was crying out, God, help. I don't want to be here. I don't want to deal with this. Over and over and over. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to deal with that shit. I wanted to be anywhere but there. I didn't want to put up with that anymore. I put up with it all my life. I wanted to be free of it. But God wanted more than just my freedom. He wanted them to be free too. And if I could heal in the midst of that, so could they. There is no excuse. They would have no excuse. And that's exactly what they needed. They had lived their entire life making excuses. What are you doing, boy? Oh, I raised my voice, so now he's over here. Oh my gosh, they're doing swords with a Q-tip is what they're doing. They're playing swords with a Q-tip. Oh my gosh. But no, seriously. That was what I was asked to do. And yes, man, I left one situation and was right into the same situation again with my own wife. It's like, oh man, so I went from one fire to another. Okay.
But you had good practice with me.
Oh, I did.
and you saw that
Yeah.
it could heal.
It did. I mean, I
You
dealt with
had hope.
demon possessed granny. That's exactly what I dealt with,
Yeah.
and that was nuts. I'm not joking. I'm not in any way
yeah.
joking. Like, this woman literally allowed a demon inside of her and tried to freaking hit me over the head with freaking pots and pans. Like, she straight up attacked me. Like, she lost her shit.
You guys remember the movie Legion? That was like 2011, 2012. You remember that one? That's
Yeah.
the one.
I think-
That's I Am Legend.
Mm.
That's the one where like it's a really strange story where God is tired of man, so he sends angels to possess men and
Oh,
destroy
yes,
themselves.
yes, I remember.
So
I remember that.
it's either Gabriel or Michael betrays God, doesn't want to fulfill it. Okay, and in this
Yeah.
storyline, this doesn't actually happen, mind you, for anyone listening. And there's a scene where this one old granny starts crawling on the ceiling.
Seriously, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I
Creepy, dude. Like
In
some
the restaurant. That
in the
was
restaurant.
wasn't
Yup,
it?
that was
the diner.
creepy as
said,
a freaking get out.
Demon Granny. First thought went to her. That demon eating that bloody red steak, dude. Like she was eating that thing raw, and then crawling on the ceiling. Yeah, as soon as you said demon
No,
Granny, I was
no,
like,
I wasn't crawling.
No, she
on
wasn't
the
crawling
ceiling.
on the ceiling.
No,
No, I
not to that degree.
no. But
No.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Jordan,
No,
what's up,
that's
dude?
my first thought. Though, dude.
Sorry. Yeah, it
So
was.
I can I share what my mind goes to when I hear grand?
Sure.
Is it worse than what I shared?
Yeah. Well, pretty much the same thing, but this whole story started off with a loss of life. So basically, older brother wanted to go to a friend's house, well, under the guise just a friend's night out. Well, it was actually a party. The mom insisted that they take his younger sister there. Well, long story short, she ended up eating some cake that had, I believe, like nuts in it or something, and she had like a very, very bad nut allergy. And the brother like found her, almost choked her to death, and tried to rush her home. Long story short, she died. This sent the whole family apart, but the mom took it the worst. And when she couldn't find an answer from Yahweh, the answer that she liked, she went somewhere else and ended up like trying to sacrifice the entire family just to get her only daughter back. And like she joins like a cult, and it is just pretty crazy. But the only like memory I have, like when she was like finally like fully possessed, was the young boy was trying to hide in the attic, like one of those where you pull down the hatch, climb in the attic. He was hiding up there, and he had kind of like barricaded the door or whatnot, and the mom was trying to get up to him, and she was crawling on the wall, same as there, but she was like banging, like using her head basically to break into the
Give it to Papa.
into the attic.
Give it to Pa. Pa. Give it to
I'm cleaning my glasses, you flipping goobers. Yeah. Seriously, the oil my skin produces is something. Like freaking acid. Seriously, I can't do anything but gold or like titanium for like earrings or jewelry. I'm sorry, I can't do gold. I can do titanium or silver. Anything else, like my body just burns away. So okay, guys.
So anyhow, so anyone who's listening realizes I am no longer possessed.
No, she's.
I
not.
have healed.
Yes, she has.
I am not the person I was 3 years ago or 4 years ago.
Or even 6 months ago.
I am not the person that I was raising my children.
No, not at all.
God has healed me and has redeemed those lost years, and
Yep.
it's
I mean, goodness gracious, you're living
there is
more.
forgiveness and there is peace.
Yeah. Well, that's something too,
And
guys.
Alistair and I have a really good relationship.
Yeah. What is with the Q-tip, boy? Be careful what you're doing with that. You have an eyeball and you have nostrils. Don't stick them up or in
Is
it,
it threatening
please.
to like swab your ear?
Yeah, it's like ah.
Well, he has his little Q-tip sword.
Yep.
I really
You can see it flashing. You know, he wants to do swords.
Did you see his little birthday banner thing?
Oh my gosh! Yes,
super
I saw
flippin'
that. That was actually a
cute, man.
pretty decent Photoshop, honestly. Really
Yeah,
not bad.
that was
Anna
really
did
really
that.
cute.
Yeah.
That is so cute.
30th.
Yep, 30th.
Right.
He's
The
gonna be a
30th.
year old.
Yeah.
Already been a year. Oh my gosh.
Dude, this Friday, she's a month. I was like, how the heck?
Wow.
I was like, how the heck has it been a month this Friday? But yeah,
He's fighting on his own.
It's like fighting the Q-tip on his own. Like it's just like, oh my gosh, like what the. Seriously, classes, and Jesus. You know what? Just thank you for my eyes.
If you're talking to us,
Can't hear me?
we're not
Is it-
hearing you.
Is this better? Can you hear me now?
I could hear you now.
You can hear me now.
I could hear you.
Oh my
no,
gosh.
earlier we were
I want to hear you, son.
putting coconut oil on Athena, and she started like swabbing. You know, when they get fussy, they start all their limbs start flailing. All over my lens is coconut oil. I'm like, oh,
It's such a pain in
So
the
I'm trying to-
butt to get off, dude.
trying to
Oh my
smuts that
gosh.
coconut oil all around my lens. It's like, no.
Like, and that's what I'm
Just to
dealing with
help
right
you
now.
dry.
I put some medicine on like right here before I went to bed.
Mm.
And then I put my glasses on when I got up, and I'm realizing that's what I'm having to try to get off right now is the combination of that
Okay.
medicine.
Oh,
So it's
trying to clean your ears out?
I don't know what he's doing. Like he's being
Hairspray is
he's-
the worst thing I've ever encountered for
oh
glasses.
gosh.
That
Yeah.
spray's pretty bad, dude.
Oh my goodness.
Even
like,
water doesn't get that off. That takes a lot of work. And you
Yeah.
don't want to jump. You don't be yeah,
You're gonna clean
All
Papa's
right.
ear.
glasses people
Oh,
problems.
no.
Yeah, it's a thing. And then like these microfiber rags are just they like you can't really use anything else or you end up damaging. Like but
Mm.
like what I'm gonna have to do, because the spray that they give us, like the cleaner, is crap. Like
Yeah.
it just
You know
it's-
what I use? I use the Castile soap.
Yeah, I know.
That
and
cuts
that's
everything.
that's what I'm gonna
Okay.
have to ask my wife to do.
Yeah.
Okay, sweetie, could you
I use
please
the Castile
could you go
soap
clean these things off?
and wash my glasses with that
Like,
when I
please.
get the oil on them.
And like I'll dry them off with
Okay.
this.
And it cuts it.
Like it just I'm trying this lens cleaner and it's junk.
It's worthless.
It's just smearing the stuff around.
Where's the other one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other one.
Worthless.
You have two.
I think it's good if you
But
like
you gotta-
clean your but that's about it. Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah,
what's
it needs-
important
no, it
too
needs-
is that whatever you're
warm it up.
wiping, drying
be
your
washed.
glasses off
We've
with,
already been through that.
make sure that it does not have dryer sheets or
Well,
softener on it,
Right.
because
right.
that will just
I
make it smear
I
even more.
learned that the hard way.
You hold yours on a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Come here, tiny human. What you doing, tiny human? Okay, we're gonna do this. Got anything to say?
Good.
No? Okay. Okay. So kind of going back to what I was talking about, like with my mother and stepfather, like in looking at like, you know, if there has to be a separation, it's kind of, you really got to recognize, is the separation really what you guys need? All right. Is that really what's needed in that instance? Do you guys often like need time apart, like even as a couple or as like if there's a child involved and stuff like that? It's really important to have those times. Let go, tiny human. Arthur, let go, gentle. Thank you, buddy. So, yeah, I don't have like a perfect answer for you, but what I do have for you is like some scenarios you can kind of look at. All right. What is God trying to teach you? Okay. If God is trying to teach you to walk away, then okay. All right, like set those boundaries. Like that's a big thing. Like with my wife, I've set boundaries. Like before we sit down and we have a conversation, it's like we have things that we agree to. Now, if one of us or both of us break that agreement, then there has to be there's a consequence. Okay, and it's something that we agree to beforehand. Like for instance, like there's a disagreement. I'll give you an instance. My wife is being a brat. Okay. Let me define what that looks like. She is purposefully not dealing with her emotions, and she's taking those emotions out on me. Okay, I think that's a good example. That's what I would mean by my wife is being a brat. Okay, so I'll sit down and say, "Hey, Maria Faye, like, are you willing to actively deal with this stuff? Are you willing to walk through this and us look at these emotions and pray through it?" Okay, if I get her agreement, it's okay. It's like, so, hey, if you choose not to, like, these are going to be some of the boundaries. I'm going to walk away, all right? Or I'm going to tell her, like, I'm going to keep talking regardless of how you feel in the moment. There's some certain things, like, it's going to be different with you, all right, because of like the personalities you may be dealing with. My wife, her biggest thing, all right, is she wants me to shut up. She often does not want me to keep talking about a difficult situation because she doesn't like how it feels. And then those emotions continue to build and build and build because she's not dealing with them. Yet the only way to be free from that building is to deal with them. You have to actively pray and take them to Jesus and actually talk about it. That's the only way to do it. And that's it. There isn't another way. He's singing right now. I know. That doesn't mean you bite. He goes to bite the microphone. Like, nope, that's not how that works.
Does he give kisses yet? I was wondering when that started for babies.
Kind of. It's not a. Oh, that's much better. There we go. Thank you. I think that's better. No, it's not. Okay, just smeared stuff all over the place. It just smeared stuff all over the place. It just smeared. What soap did you use? I know, the joy. So go in and use the Castile soap. Okay. No, we can't. Not anymore. That will scratch. This one? It has to be cleaned without any like fabric softener and stuff like that. That's got stuff on it. What? This haven't used. That's never used. All right, I'm gonna. Jesus, do you want me to try it?
Jordan, earlier when you were talking about that cake that had nuts, and I was like, it had pecans in it. So my first thought, she was saying how you don't like pecans. Ooh. Beth was asking if you made your banana cake, Andrea.
Nope.
No.
No. I was, yeah, by the time I got laundry done yesterday and I made up and boiled a dozen eggs and made egg salad for the week. I was done. So,
Okay.
yeah.
You ever blanched corn? That's something Beth was learning tonight, how to blanch corn.
Yeah.
Saying the right blanch. Yeah. I
3
didn't know that.
minutes. Boiling water, 3 minutes.
And it's to preserve the flavor, right? When you freeze it. That's
Yeah.
the whole point.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you dump it into cold water immediately.
Mhm.
And then if you're going to freeze it, then you take it off the cob and freeze it that way.
That's what she did.
But-
Cool. Sounds like
Yeah.
she did it right.
But 3 minutes, that's all it takes.
Nice. One of her cousins dropped off a meal tonight for us. It's potatoes, beef, and cheese casserole kind of idea.
Okay.
Oh, and sour cream. There's also sour cream in there. It was actually really tasteful.
So yeah, back to to what I was saying. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, talking about that. All right. Jesus, what more do you want me to say to that? Yeah, there isn't a one size fits all. So you really have to like determine and discern like what is your need, what are your needs? Okay, what are his needs, and what is God asking of you? That's the question. And determine, okay, hey, like, what are the boundaries that you need to set in order to protect yourself? Boundaries are not about you controlling the other person. A good example of a boundary, okay, if you are going to disrespect me and stonewall, I'm going to walk away from this conversation. Or, like, if you choose to stonewall, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to continue talking as Jesus leads me to. It's what you are going to do. Now, yes, Andrea.
Well, and I think too, one of the things as a Christian that sometimes we think we're going to be a doormat.
Nope. I do not teach
And-
doormat theology.
No, but that was huge for me to learn that I could stand up for myself, that I did not have to sit back and let people walk all over me. But but the key was, what was my motive? And was I doing it in love?
Yeah.
But sometimes, I mean, I remember in the last 6 months, I actually yelled back at my supervisor.
Yeah.
And raised my voice. And I'd never done that before.
Well-
And it was like, I can't say I yelled, but I spoke very emphatically.
Well, something too. There's something I want to bring up here. Okay, like there are rules. A lot of people like to make rules. Like, well, you do this, you have to do this, etc., etc., etc. Like you make these rules, these arbitrary rules in the midst of an argument in order to control the other person's behavior to get them to do what you think they need to be doing. That, like for instance, well, you don't need to raise your voice, or you don't need to do this, or you don't need to do that. Okay, good. That's your opinion. That's great. Thank you for expressing yourself. I don't care. Like, really, that's, yeah. Like, now, could I put it more diplomatically? Sure. But there's a point there. Like, we can talk about my behavior? Sure. But have we actually discussed the problem, or are you just trying to focus on my behavior so we don't actually deal with the problem? Like, that's deflection. If you are purposefully deflecting away from the actual issue at hand, and you're trying to point out what I did and what I did and what I like didn't do, or what you don't like about me, and you're not actually talking about the issue, that's a problem. And like, then you can create a boundaries. Like, hey, if you're going to continue to deflect, like, I guess what's Jesus, what's a good boundary in that situation? Well, first it's call it out. Hey, like you're projecting and you're deflecting right now. I don't appreciate that. I would like you to stop. And then if they continue in that, hey, you're continuing to do something that like I'm really not comfortable with. I find it very disrespectful and very demeaning. If you continue doing this, blank happens. Okay? Like if you're dealing with a young child, it's like, hey, we're having this conversation. If you continue behaving this way, you're going to get a spanking, or you're going to get a timeout, or there's going to be a loss of privileges. Okay? Like if you're dealing with an adult who's acting like a child, okay, oftentimes the best thing is a timeout. Because what they really want is they want your attention. That's really what they want. They want, or they run away in order for you to chase them. Don't. They're doing that to get your attention. Whether it's conscious or subconscious, that's why they're doing it. Their bad behavior okay, is about a need that they have that has never been taken care of in a healthy way. All right, they need to be loved. They need to know that they're loved. Okay? And sometimes they're going to push you as much as they possibly can to see where your snapping point is. So that now you're just as bad as they are, and now they feel justified in treating you the way that they have. Don't. Then they can't rationalize it. They have to actually face their crap. You want to learn how to defeat a narcissist? That's how you do it. You give them the opposite of what they want. That's also how you defeat the enemy, which is the biggest narcissist in existence. You want to talk about God complex? I mean, look at Satan. And the only way to defeat Satan is with love. You apply the opposite nature. If he's given you pride, you give him humility. If he's given you a childish, bratty attitude, then you speak firmly. That's the reality. That's conflict resolution. Don't feed into their negative mindset. But that's hard. That really is. It's hard. It's not easy. Healthy boundaries. Set some ground rules, like that both of you agree with. Like, hey, this is the kind of conversation we want to have. This is the kind of house that we want to live in. This is the kind of environment we want to foster. If we're not doing that, we need to find out why we're not doing that and deal with it. And in the midst of that difficulty, if that person is, well, like, it's always my fault, blah blah blah. Okay, is it? Is it really always your fault? If it is, okay. Well, then why are you crying about it? If it is always your fault, stop doing the same stupid thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Like, just because it has been and it's being brought up to you over and over and over again, and you're not bringing up the evil in their life, maybe because they're actively dealing with their crap and you're not. Doesn't mean they don't have stuff in their life. They're just dealing with it. So you're not always seeing it. Like, guys, I deal with crap every day. You guys just don't see it all. Not that I'm not willing to talk about it. But most of what you guys see from me is the results of me going through the crap. Because I'm not sitting here treating people like crap because I feel like crap. Just because I feel a certain way doesn't give me the right to treat people badly. I don't give myself excuses. I take accountability for my actions and my words. Sometimes I know the things I say sound harsh. They're meant to be. There's a reason why I say things that way. I'm squeezing, seeing what comes out. I'm doing exactly what Jesus has taught me to do. Iron sharpens iron. If you want to be sharp, guess what? All those imperfections need to be taken off. If you want to be sharp, guess what? You need to go on the grind wheel and you need to be sharpened. If you're still in the forging process, guess what? That hammer hurts. You're going to get the crap beat out of you. That happens. It doesn't feel good. It's not meant to feel good, because it's what it's doing is it's getting away all of those weaknesses, all those imperfections, all of those things that will cause you to snap and break in the midst of a fight. You don't want to have a sword with weakness in it. Because if the enemy finds that weakness, man, that whole sword just cracks, and now yeah. So you go through the fire. You go through trials. You go through difficulties. You go through rivers of difficulty. You go through deep waters. You go through the fire. But you recognize God is with you. That just like gold, your faith is tested. It's purified. It's heated up. It's tested under fire so that you can find out what's there that doesn't belong there. The reason I say things the way I say them is because that's what I'm doing. It's exactly what Jesus taught me to do. It's okay if I say this, hey, how is this person going to react? I know that what I'm doing is in love. I'm not in sin. Yeah, could I say it differently? Sure. But it's not going to help you heal. I'm not here to be nice to you. Any of you. I'm here to love you. To love you the same way Jesus Christ has loved me. And he kicked my butt many times and still does. So, all right, guys. Pretty sure that is it. It's 9:24. We went a little over today, and I thank you guys for being patient with me. Does anybody have any questions before we call it for today? No? All right. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to shut down the lives. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, this is Jesus Today. This is Alistair signing off.
We had a variety of people come